All right, so welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at doing a linear perspective using two-point perspective on more complex forms such as letters. Again, I'm going to focus on using wild style this time as an approach and thinking about how to create a stronger sense of three-dimensionality within your designs. Okay, so to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to establish the horizon line. Right? And remember from our previous video, we are adding on these little wings in order to minimize the distortion that we have. So I'm going to draw my horizon line across my two pieces of paper. I'm going to label the one over on the left as vanishing point 1 and the one over on the right as vanishing point number 2. Okay? From here, what I want to do is I want to create that sense of depth. I'm going to actually try and incorporate a couple of letters this time. And I'm going to put this so that it's below the horizon line. Actually, yeah, let's do it below the horizon line. And I'm going to take my line, I'm actually going to move it a little bit further over to the left. Okay? And now I'm going to start by creating that kind of box shape that we did with the when creating the rectangular prism in the previous activity. The reason that I'm doing this is that this is going to help give me the guide for how tall all of my letters would be within my graffiti tag. Okay, so like we did last time, I'm going to take I'm going to just use, actually I'm going to do this with bubble letters. And I'm going to start creating my letter forms like so. And right, and then we have our A, which is going to be a little bit over here. And I'm going to try and actually make these this a little bit thinner. Okay, so we have our A. I'm going to come back in, I'm going to reinforce by pressing a little bit harder with the letters, or the with the outline here. I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time here erasing some of those guidelines that I drew. Okay, so it's not the prettiest of letter A's, but it'll work. And then maybe what I'll do here is I'm going to look at creating a second letter. I'm going to create the letter D. So I'm going to overlap the two letters a little bit for creating a little bit more complexity. And so I'm going to come across, and I've got a little bit of a bump here. Right? So a lot of this is kind of experimenting and playing with what you want your letter forms to actually look like. And then, let's see, let's bring this one across. Like so, we'll overlap that. Right? I'm kind of just getting a rough idea here. So erasing some of those unnecessary lines. Okay, so now that we have our letters, right, you can see that they're kind of getting smaller off into the distance, right? Again, I'm going to go off, and a lot of the work now that we're going to do is with vanishing point number 1. Okay, and using that same idea of the tangent or finding the vertice, I'm going to bring out my pencil, I'm going to use it as a pivot point, and I'm going to rotate my ruler using the pivot point. So at this, right, so every time I find a tangent, I'm going to draw a line across, right, right, so I'm going to do the letter A first, right, so I don't have too many lines. This time I'm going to try and keep my letters not quite so deep. so I can show you how this might end up looking with the interior of your letters, right? The A's and the D's that have those holes. Right, so a lot of this kind of more applied work, right? You've got some more creative liberty here in terms of how this is going to work, and I'm going to try and keep all of these that are approximately the same depth there. All right, so what I've done here is I've created a shallow extension so that I'm actually seeing through. So this is actually the background in behind the letter form. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come across, I'm going to do the same thing with D's, and this is going to be a little bit more tricky. All right, looks like I'm really only going to have one spot where I'm going to be needing that vanishing line, right? Maybe two there, and then it's just a case of kind of applying and thinking about where those different letter forms or depth lines are going to go. Okay. So just like that, I now have my letters figured out. I'm going to come in, I'm going to erase a lot of the extra lines that I've created. Okay. And just as we did last time, right, I'm going to just take a moment and add in a little bit of value so you can see how the letters are beginning to work. Okay, so step one again, right, I'm going to just take my lighter value and I'm going to add this onto the surface here. Right, if you're doing this with a pencil, you could use a softer pencil like a 6 or 8B and your blending stomps, which are in your art kits. Right, and I'm going to come through here, I'm going to add in the face of the D. I'm actually going to do a little bit of outlining this time as well, just to kind of help you to see some of these surfaces a little bit more clearly. Okay, so we have the fronts of our letters done, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start thinking about some of these interior lines here, right? Again, a bit of a darker tone in order to help create that sense of shadow and depth and distinguishing each of the different surfaces that we're working with. Right? And just because there's a little bit of a extra little raise here, I'm going to just make this one even a little bit darker. And as I said, I'm going to use a darker tone. I'm going to do a little bit of outlining. I know I haven't done this in the previous examples. Right? It just helps to kind of make some of these areas pop a little bit more, and you can see the shape of the bubble letter a little bit more clearly. Right, we're going to do the same thing over here with the adding in their darker values to the depth edges. There's not a whole lot in this one here. It's that little spot there that we need to make sure we're getting. so. Right, and then really quick, just quickly add in like so. Right, so we can start to create more complex letter forms by thinking about different ways of incorporating linear perspective. So again, if you've got any questions as you're trying this out, let me know. Post what you're doing so that I can see and give you some feedback as you're working along. And good luck. Talk to you later. Bye.